So, hey guys, welcome to this week's episode of GlobalTQM's podcast of sourcing and developing products in China. So, today is going to be a really exciting episode. We haven't done one for a while, but I'm really excited about this one. I've got a good friend of mine joining me here, Reed. Hey, Reed.
Hey, David. Excited to be here.
No, excellent. So to some background, guys, Reed is an expert at Kickstarter, amongst other things. And why we're having him on here today, and I think I'm really excited about it, is I was in jest, I guess, speaking to Reed and saying, Reed, I don't get this whole Kickstarter thing. Why do you bother? Why do you waste your time? You know, you should be doing things in a different way. And he said something, and it's kind of the magic ingredient that tweaked my interest. And that's why we're going to go down this route. And I'm sure everyone will find this fascinating. He said, it's really simple. We can't buy inventory on every single thing we want to sell. It just costs a lot of money and a huge investment. And suddenly the penny dropped for me. Reed, I have to say, I mean, you took me from taking it as a joke to saying, wow, I need to know more about this. I mean, it just blew my mind. You're right. And that's why I love the space.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that's obviously one of the big barriers for entry in inventory-based business is you have to invest hundreds of thousands of dollars in inventory in advance, which you're then ultimately going to sell down and pay yourself back. But I guess to segue into, to give a little bit of background into what Kickstarter is for those of you out there that aren't familiar with it, Kickstarter is what's called a crowdfunding platform, and basically what that means is it's a pre-order platform. So customers can come onto the platform and they can pre-order a product in advance of when that product is ready to ship, and in return for pre-ordering that product and waiting a while for the shipping, you give those customers a discount on the future retail price of that product. So that's a great, I'm just going to interrupt you because I've got so many questions. So the advantage for the customer pre-ordering, because that's another thing I didn't get about it, is I'm just used to customers wanting things on demand. I said, why would anybody order it and wait to get it? I just didn't understand it when you explained to me. So it's that whole concept that you're getting it at a lower price, and does the price go up the longer you wait? Yeah. So good question. So typically you're getting the customer's getting anywhere from 50% off to, which is pretty standard in the super early bird phase of the campaign, right when a Kickstarter launches, to 20 to 30% off towards the end of the campaign, or on Indiegogo after the campaign ends. And we can talk a little bit more about the different phases of the crowdfunding campaign. But that's one of the big incentives for a customer to back a Kickstarter project, is that they're getting a really nice discount on the future retail price.
Yeah, I mean, one of my mantras has always been inventory is evil. It's just evil. I mean, it's one way that in most businesses burn on inventory. So it does fascinate me, giving people the discount in advance so that they can pre-order. So in a way, I mean,
let me jump in there for a second, because I think you hit on the key point, and one of the main value propositions as a brand or as a creator on Kickstarter, you have good insight into consumer demand before you go on to make that inventory run. Not only do you know for sure that there's enough demand for the product, and Kickstarter has this thing called a funding goal. So let's say that your funding goal is $100,000. You're only going to make this product if you hit that funding goal. So if there's enough consumer demand, if enough Kickstarter customers come on and purchase the product, you're not committed to making it until you hit that goal.
Wow.
And then once you hit it.
So it's basically like market validation. So you validate it first, see customers want it, see customers buying it, then you decide if you're even going to make it.
Exactly. So not only do you know for sure that there's product market fit, that there's demand for the product, also you have great insight into more nuanced demand insights such as, what are the best selling colors? Which accessories do people want with this product? What's the geographic distribution of your customer base? How does it skew between male and female, and all sorts of other insight that normally takes a lot longer to figure out and then, project. You have all that information before you have to actually, purchase the inventory.
That's amazing. I didn't even think of that. I mean, that we faced, and many of my customers are faced with that question all the time. What color is going to work? What size? I mean, if you've got that insight before you even ordering, it's ultimate. So you get all this market validation before the investment. I almost feel like it's too good to be true. It's the ultimate formula in many ways.
It is. It is a little too good to be true, and that's really we're really only focused right now in talking about kind of the financial use cases for Kickstarter, which are numerous. And there's one thing that I want to clear up, which is a common misconception about the Kickstarter model. A lot of people think it's crowdfunding, like funding, meaning, you're trading, somebody's purchasing equity in your company, but that's not the case. It's not to be confused with equity crowdfunding, which is a whole nother space and kind of interesting in and of itself. But we're talking about Kickstarter, which is a product crowdfunding marketplace platform, and you're simply offering a pre-order, a pre-sale of a product that you're interested in producing. No equity involved.
And I think one of the things that I like about it too, because we've spoken about this offline, is what a lot of people miss in developing a product is that whole content package, the creating the content, the presentation, the information, how you're going to actually pitch your product online. And what Kickstarter kind of forces you to do is prepare all of that up front. So you go through that whole learning curve, and then you can even make modifications to the product as you learn things. You can say, oh, that's actually kind of a key feature, we missed on that point. Let's update that in packaging or in collateral or material or whatever kind of videos, whatever we've got to promote the product.
No, this is a super savvy point, and one that we kind of always remind ourselves of. And it's funny you mentioned this, because I was literally just having this conversation with Mel, my wife, and her and I have a bedding brand, and we recently launched a Kickstarter, and there's parts of the Kickstarter, of launching a Kickstarter, that are a ton of work, such as you said, kind of crafting that storytelling and the messaging, and the other big piece of it that is different from kind of some of the other traditional e-commerce channels is it's a very public launch platform. So you have these Kickstarter backers, and they can kind of publicly comment and ask you questions and that kind of thing. And because of that element of it, you really have to align on what your messaging, what your public facing messaging is. But going through that exercise of really, figuring out what your primary value proposition is, and what the storytelling angle is, and kind of that product marketing, it's super important.
That's huge. I mean, I've seen people sell products online. They can be selling the same product, and one does really well just because the way they tell the story, their headline, their key selling points, they just hit the nail on their head, and they understand what the problems it's solving for the consumers. And you don't get that without market research and talking to customers. It's incredible.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one of the other parts of that is one of the parts of launching Kickstarters that really fascinates us, and that we like about it is and you could argue this for any sort of big product launch. It doesn't just have to be a Kickstarter, but there's this element of kind of building up to that launch. And when you're building up to that launch, you have a lot of time to survey customers and a lot of different customer touch points and interactions. And that's a great time, as you said, to really kind of hone in on what your messaging is, to try some different angles, test a lot of different creatives, so this is maybe going a little off track, and stop me if we don't want to.
No, I'm loving it, because I mean, I couldn't agree more. I mean, to me, there's more value in doing that type of work up front than rushing to find a product, buying it, putting in inventory and trying to sell it. And then you're going to, the way I look at it, you're going to learn that anyway. You can either learn it the easy way, you can learn it the hard way, stuck with a bunch of inventory. So for me, I feel like I'm a converted person from somebody not getting it to thinking it sounds like the best thing ever.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So that kind of the methodology that we like to employ is, so as you said, kind of really astutely, the Kickstarter itself is this market validation. So, already we know that we've got this massive market validation that's happening once we launch the Kickstarter. There's also a few other validation points that we like to put in before you even launch on Kickstarter, so that you're not stepping up to the plate on launch day and it's a complete flop. So the first thing that we like to do is what we call a Facebook ad product validation.
Right.
And the methodology for this is, what we're going to do is we're going to take your product, and we're going to create, a few dozen Facebook ad creatives that demonstrate the product's value proposition, use case, maybe a few different approaches. Maybe there's a primary use case or a few different, unique selling points. We're going to try several different angles and target, several different customer personas, several different audiences, a kind of a range of images and videos and different creative mediums. And we're going to run Facebook ads, which will target previous Kickstarter backers. So people that have backed another Kickstarter project in the past, because the thing about Kickstarter backers is it's like a very specific sort of consumer behavior that's a bit addictive, I think.
Right.
Where if you've backed one Kickstarter project, you're very likely to back another Kickstarter project. So we're only targeting those previous Kickstarter backers. And what we're trying to assess is, if they see this Facebook ad and then they click on it, and then they're redirected to a mobile optimized landing page where we're asking them for their email address. So the landing page will say, we're launching this Kickstarter project in a couple of months. Put your email address in and be the first to know the second we launch, and have the best chance at getting a 50% discount on the future retail price. Yeah. And so kind of the price that we can collect an email address for, the price that we can get to collect an email address of somebody who's interested in this Kickstarter launch, that's a great piece of data that can kind of indicate, at least initially, is there likely to be consumer demand for this product once it goes on to Kickstarter. And generally the benchmark that we're looking for is we're looking to collect emails for $2 or less, and ideally around $1.50.
Wow. I mean, that in itself is valuable, just kind of running those test campaigns to try and validate a product idea. So Reed, I've got so many questions to ask you, but I have to jump ahead to one because I am quite curious. What is the biggest Kickstarter campaign you've done? And I'm talking dollars.
So US dollars, biggest in terms of sales or revenue. We launched a Kickstarter in Q3 of last year of 2020 called Whipper, which is it's an at-home fitness product. It's this cube that you can attach a few different accessories so that you can row, or you can paddle, or you can ski.
Nice.
From the comfort of your home. And it raised 3.5 million USD.
$3.5 million.
Yeah. And that's in the span of about, I think 45 days. Is Kickstarter will run between 30 to 60 days. So 3.5 million in 45 days. Okay.
Wow. That's unbelievable. I mean, most people don't sell that at all, ever on a product, let alone on just their Kickstarter launch.
Super, super exciting. And one of the other exciting things about that product in particular is the return on ad and ROAS, return on ad spend. This is one of the primary metrics that we use to evaluate the profitability of ads we're running. The return on ad spend for that was over 6x.
Wow.
The kind of industry benchmark for e-commerce is probably like 2.5, 3x is good.
Right.
So this was 6x. So it was
That's
not
amazing.
only incredibly high volume, but also incredibly profitable.
That is unbelievable. So I mean, I imagine, I mean, there's lots of success stories. I mean, what does a bad or average campaign look like in your view? Like, what would you say? Like, can I do $100,000 on a campaign? Would that be good or bad? Or, I mean, what does bad, good, medium look like? I mean, let's try balance expectations. I'm sure everyone's going to do a $3.5 million campaign. Although I am going to hold you to it, we're going to try.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, of course, there are, so the majority of Kickstarter projects that launch don't hit their funding goal. That's, if you look at the statistics, probably about 90% of Kickstarter projects that launch, they don't ever hit their funding goal. And so they don't even, go on to make that product. And that's mostly because, they don't have a good process or a strategic approach in place. They just kind of launch.
Well, if I can interrupt you there, I mean, in a way, because I speak about this a lot, is sometimes it's better, the sooner you know a product's not going to work, the better it is, because like I have this conversation with people, and I say, rather pay more from a manufacturer in China, for example, and get less inventory than try and get the lowest price and take on too much inventory, because if you got to start marking that down and clearing it, you'll lose a lot more. So when you say that to me, like with what I know, I look at it and I say, well, if it costs me X to validate a product before I've even invested in the inventory, I don't necessarily see that as a loss. I could see that as a big win. It's what did you save yourself from getting into? Because I've gotten into a lot of dead products that we're still unraveling years later with a lot of inventory. So for me, I look at that like, wow, I wouldn't mind knowing first before I get into a product that there's a market, there's interest, because I'm going to learn that anyway.
100%. No, you're right that there's certainly a lot of those products that are just bad. There just isn't product market fit. There isn't enough consumer demand to warrant them. But a lot of them are actually great products.
Yeah.
And they just haven't. They don't have the right approach. They basically what happens is they come onto Kickstarter. They launch their Kickstarter. They hit the launch button and go live. And then nothing happens, and they say, what happened? And that's because, and I think we'll talk about this a little bit today. When you look at these really big Kickstarters, like this 3.5 million Whipper campaign, what's going on behind the scenes is there's a lot going on behind the scenes there, and kind of the bread and butter of these big Kickstarter campaigns is paid customer acquisition. So, Facebook and Instagram ads, Google AdWords, YouTube, and some other stuff. Yeah. But if you're not kind of generating traffic and sending traffic to it, there's not much that's going to happen just organically there.
But I think that goes for anything you do in e-commerce. If you set up a Shopify store, set up a list of product on Amazon, the name of the game is traffic. You still, the way I see it, I've never been in a situation where you don't have to find a way to get your product in front of customers, and that normally comes in ad spend in some way.
Absolutely. There is an organic Kickstarter community. There's a Kickstarter community of 20, 30 million customers that come back again and again and back products, that come onto Kickstarter. Kickstarter probably gets let's see how many monthly unique views Kickstarter gets. It's got a built-in community that is going to bring maybe 10-20% of the revenue of a Kickstarter. So Kickstarter's got 30 million monthly unique visitors. So it's
to their site.
To their site. So it's not insignificant. You are going to get some organic traffic there, but I think you're 100% right. You can't rely on that organic traffic. You need to be generating traffic.
Yeah. Reed, I've actually got so many questions, but we are running out of time because I try to keep these podcasts and discussions short to 20, 25 minutes max. But I can just see there's way too much to talk about. I haven't got halfway down my list. I mean, I want to know what happens after Kickstarter with the product. I want to know what happens if it doesn't. I want to know, can you do Kickstarter yourself at all? Can you do some of these tests yourself? I've got a list of questions. I want to know how long it takes to deliver a product. I want to get into actually developing the product and what that looks like behind the scenes. Whether how much development work you got to do versus sourcing a product in China and still being successful online. There's so much I want to do. So I'm going to ask you a favor, and a question is, maybe would you be willing to possibly do a webinar or a workshop with me? We can do it live to an audience, and let's maybe spend 40 minutes to an hour pitching Kickstarter and the process and helping people understand the mechanics of it, how it works, maybe going a bit deeper under the hood, because I'm sure there's a lot of people listening to this that will be very interested in this. Some will want to do it themselves, and I'd love to teach them a bit how to do it. Some might want help in doing it. We can explore those possibilities. I mean, would you be open to that?
Absolutely, David. It would be my pleasure. If I get to look at that beautiful mug of yours for another hour or two on a call, fine by me.
Listen, I can send you a picture if you want. Agree, that'll be great. I mean, you have converted me into this space, and I know we've spoken. We're going to try to do a Kickstarter together, and maybe we'll kind of document that as we go and share it. But yeah, I think so. For those of you guys listening, there's just so much more I want to talk to Reed about. But I think what you need to take home is there's a lot of opportunities here in Kickstarter, and there are ways to do it on your own. There's ways to get help to do it. And it's a very, very cost-effective alternative to launching products and doing market validation, et cetera. So I think doing this webinar, doing this workshop is going to be incredibly valuable. So, once by the time I guess we publish this podcast, we'll have a link, we'll have a sign-up page, and we'll make a commitment to doing that for you guys. So, Reed, I mean, thank you so much for joining us. It's like, as usual, we can talk for hours on this.
My pleasure, David. Thanks for having me.
Excellent. Bye, guys. We'll speak soon. And remember, like it, share it. If you're enjoying the content you're getting from us, just make sure everybody hears it. The more people that hear it, the happier we are. Take care, guys. We'll speak soon.
Quick plug, David.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you'll pop it into the podcast notes as well.
Yeah.
But, if you want to check out the other projects we've worked on, you can check out our website, brag.co. That's BRAAG.co. And check out kind of our portfolio of projects on there.
Yeah, that's great, guys. And I highly recommend you do that. That's Reed's company. Go see the projects they do, the work they do. Fascinating stuff. I know for me, it's been a very interesting learning curve. So take care, guys, and we'll speak soon. See you next week for another episode.
Cheers. Thanks, David.
Bye.